Hello, my name is Katya Sverdlov. We are doing non-invasive neuromodulation for pediatric autism. Autism is a large, growing neurodevelopmental disorder. It is lifelong. Usually children are diagnosed around 3 or 4 years of age. It costs $2 to $3 million per person, depending on the severity. About 30% remain nonverbal. Even amongst the higher functioning individuals, 85% remain unemployed. The current standard of care is ABA therapy. It requires 20 hours per week of one-on-one instructions with a highly trained therapist. There's not enough of them in the US and completely not enough of them worldwide. People are coming to US to get it. The wait lists are about 12 months long. Most importantly, it's extremely expensive. It's $50,000 a year plus. It requires many years. And most importantly, it doesn't work for a large percentage of the population, does not change the physiology of the brain. Aside from ABA, there is nothing else right now. There's no medications and no devices that treat core symptoms of autism. Everyone is trying to figure out the pathology of autism, and there are many different theories. A lot of them are conflicting. What we do know is that 80% of affected individuals have some form of mitochondrial disturbances. And that leads to neural inflammation, that leads to neural underconnectivity, all of which play a role in the core symptoms of autism, which is inability to properly communicate, lack of social integration, and repetitive behaviors. So the technology that we are using is transcranial photobiomodulation, which is pulse near infrared light. It's been around for many years now, and it's been studied for many indications. There are currently over 20 clinical trials worldwide studying this technology for various neurological disorders, such as Parkinson's, such as traumatic brain injury, such as depression. Why we thought it was specifically interesting for autism is because photobiomodulation affects the mitochondria. It increases, there are many studies in vitro and vivo that show that photobiomodulation increases ATP production in the mitochondria. As a result, it reduces neuroinflammation. It also increases blood flow to the brain, which is, of course, all issues with autism. So to date, we've developed a device that was specifically designed for pediatric autism. We are targeting specific brain areas affected in autism, and from other studies, we're targeting these brain areas simultaneously with the powers that are strong enough to penetrate through the skull. That's one of the biggest issues that we hear usually. First one is how can pulse near infrared light penetrate the skull? It can. The biggest offender is actually the hair, not the skull. And skin color matters, hair color matters, but it can. So too little, and there is no effect, too much, and it can actually be detrimental. And we're picking specific powers that are good for specific children. Of course, we're also collecting data and personalizing the treatment. So then the main question is, does it actually work? To date, we've done 3 clinical studies. We finished 3 clinical studies with children. 2 of them were RCTs. One of them was open label, funded by NSF. What we see is that children who receive the treatment improve statistically and clinically better than the children in the sham group. In our pre-submission meetings with the FDA, we agreed that the clinically validated measure to measure the improvement is CARS, Childhood Autism Rating Scale. FDA wants to see a 4.5-point decline in the CARS. What we see is consistently more than that. There's always a placebo effect in all of autism clinical studies. All the parents are extremely hopeful. So there's usually a 2-point decline in the sham group as well. Again, what we see is consistently the children who receive the treatment improve better than the children who do not. And based on the result, we received breakthrough device designation from the FDA. And what we've seen is about 80% of the children respond in one way or the other. In addition to the behavioral improvement, in 2 of the studies, we collected EEG. And what we saw is that as the behavior was improvement, there was a corresponding change in the EEG data, which is really exciting for us because, of course, one behavioral improvement is quite subjective on all mental health disorders, especially with autism, especially with pediatrics, whereas EEG was physiological change that was measured. We have 2 publications in peer-reviewed journals regarding our studies. So what does it actually mean for children who receive the treatment? They start to speak. They go from single words to sentences. They go from robotic speech to spontaneous speech. They gain functional skills such as being able to toilet independently, which for a 10 or 11-year-old is quite a huge deal for families. They stop self-injurious behaviors. They become interested in other people and other children. The number 1 change was responsiveness, actually, which therapists and teachers from schools are calling parents and saying, did you put the child on medications? Because all of a sudden he's responding to treatment, which then makes, of course, that therapy or the teaching that much easier. So that improves synergies. We've also seen changes in motor. About 80 to 90% of all autistic individuals have some form of motor dysfunction. And what we've heard repeatedly is that children become more agile, they become stronger, they have more energy. So that's been actually really interesting. Again, the core symptoms of autism are considered speech responsiveness and social integration, and we've seen dramatic improvement in that. So to date, as a company, we've raised 6 million. That includes both grants and private funding. We have NSF, phase 1 and phase 2, which is problematic right now with government shutdown, but there you are. Like I said, we've had multiple meetings with the FDA, pre-submissions. We have 3 trials completed and several that are ongoing right now. We have 5 issued patents, and we're building a platform for personalization. Most importantly, we are in the middle of the pivotal clinical trial because we're going as a class 2 through de novo, and we're about little over halfway recruited for the pivotal. So that's our timeline. We expect to do power analysis for the data in the next couple of months. We'll probably need to open a 3rd site early next year to improve recruitment, to speed it up, and we expect to submit to the FDA end of next year, end of 2026. And then we commercialize. We have a huge wait list already from parents, and reimbursement is, of course, an elephant in the room. There are no codes for reimbursement for this type of technology. Parents are calling, email us daily asking if we can sell them this device. The answer is always no. We expect to commercialize through clinicians initially with prescription from MDs, nurse practitioners, but the actual treatment can be administered by the MD staff, but also by other practitioners who work with these children, such as physical therapy, speech therapists, OTs. It really depends on the state, but there are many more therapists who can administer this treatment. We will have a pay-per-use model, and then, of course, we expand, again, initially through clinicians. Within 2 years, this is an easy-to-use technology that it can be home-based, always as a medical device. We're looking to partner with third-party learning programs, again, for synergetic treatment, because, again, we see how much the children start to concentrate, and any type of learning becomes that much more effective. Personalization, we are collecting this data for again, we've seen a huge difference in the response rate, of course, and there are so many, and autism in general is a heterogeneous condition, and that is how we're going to stay ahead of the competition. Wearables are hard, as I've been told multiple times, and so personalization of treatment is the way to stay ahead of the competition. And then, of course, adults. And children have the biggest neuroplasticity, but adults is a much bigger market, and we do see improvement with adults. I think with additional work, stronger devices, different brain areas to be targeted, we can make a difference. It is a big market already. So there's 2 million children just in the US alone. Worldwide, it's bigger, and there is nothing right now that is available for autism. We get emails from all over the world asking if they can come to US to join the clinical trials. And then there are other indications. This is non-invasive technology that can be seen and used and helpful for other indications. We're focused on pediatrics. Specifically, again, 4 patents, and just because that's where our interest is, but speech delays, motor delays, children born to addicted parents, general developmental delays can all be helped. We have 5 issued patents and many more pending, and of course, trade secrets in terms of protocols and other things. And we expect to be acquired within 5 years by a large medical device company. Oh, sorry, let me talk about team. We do have a team of experts. Our CTO is Luis de Taboada. He has over 30 years of experience in photobiomodulation devices. He's a 2 times exited founder. One company actually, where he was an early founder, just got sold. Lumithera was a photobiomodulation company that got sold to close for $1 billion recently. They were doing photobiomodulation for macular degeneration. My co-founder, Eugenia Steingold, has over 20 years of experience in language development and working with autistic patients, research from Harvard and Princeton. Lisa Logunova has over 20 years of experience in software development, and we have advisors in mitochondrial disturbances, medical device manufacturing, autism therapy, Dr. Pry, and AI and personalization. My background is in finance and legal industries. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that talk, Katya. One quick question relating to the transcranial photobiomodulation. What type of attenuation is there? Now, you mentioned the skull and the hair, and it depends on the color, which of course is interesting. People who are doing transcranial electrical stimulation will sometimes come up with a measure how much electrical energy is actually penetrating, getting into the brain, and maybe it's 10% or whatever. Obviously, it depends on skull thickness and a lot of other things. What percentage would you guess?
5 to 10%.
So about 5 to 10% of the optical energy
actually penetrates.
Is penetrating.
And it depends on the skull thickness, and it really depends on the hair.
So which hair is best?
Mine and short.
So short hair is better.
So bold. So basically, when we get boys, we ask them to do a buzz cut. And that's like, I mean, really. And then when we get girls, it's lift the hair up. But dark, thick hair is the absolute worst.
Yeah, a lot of sensing companies are, you have dry electrodes versus wet electrodes. Obviously, that's less of an issue for you. But even with that 5 to 10% penetration, you're still.
It has been enough. It has been enough, and more is not better. And there's been lots of studies done by other companies as well in terms of dose-dependent effects.
And is that penetration dependent on wavelength? I mean, in other words, is it?
There are different yeah. So we're using 850 nanometers and 40 hertz pulsing. So pulsing wavelength matters. Everything matters. Yes.
Right. So is that near infrared? So is there any synergy or potential synergy with NIR, FNIR devices, or is that really not an issue?
There are synergies with a lot of things, potential synergies, right? And so we're looking to partner with more with diagnostic and figuring out the biomarkers in terms of because we've seen huge disparity, and 80% of we've treated by now almost 100 children. So we have a lot of data at this point, and that excludes the pivotal trial. Once we finish the pivotal trial, it'll be a lot more. But of almost 100 is where we see the data. And it's about 80% of the kids respond somewhat. The magnitude of the response is quite different as well. And so figuring out the best responders, looking for biomarkers is, of course, the future.
Got it. All right. Any other questions for Katya? All right. Well, thank you very much, Katya.